Librarian Emily here, and I have a slightly scary story to share with you that comes from American folklore called The Big Hairy Toe. Now this version comes from a retelling by S.E. Schlosser. Once there was a little old woman who lived in a deep, dark forest. One evening she went out into the forest to dig some roots for her dinner, and as she dug, she saw something funny sticking out from underneath the leaves. So she went to dig it up. And she uncovered a big, hairy toe. Now, there was a lot of good meat on that toe. It would make a mighty tasty dinner. So she stuck it into her basket and took it home. When she got back to the cottage, she put a big kettle of water on to boil, and she took that hairy toe and she put it in the kettle, and she added some salt and some pepper and some herbs, and then she stirred and she stirred and she stirred. And when she tasted that hairy toe soup, it was delicious. It was so delicious that she ate it all up. Then she went to bed with a full stomach and a smile on her face, because it was the best meal she'd had in weeks. She got into bed and snuggled into the covers and went to sleep. Along about midnight, a cold wind began to blow through the treetops surrounding the cottage, and a big, dark cloud covered the moon. And from the woods, a hollowed voice rumbled, "Hairy toe! Hairy toe! I want my hairy toe!" The little old lady stirred in her sleep and pulled the covers up over her ears. From the forest came a stomp, stomp, stomping noise as the wind whistled through the trees and moved the treetops back and forth. From the clearing at the edge of the forest, a hollowed voice said, "Hairy toe! Hairy toe! I want my hairy toe!" Inside the cottage, the little old woman shuddered in her sleep and rolled over. Outside on the garden path came the stomp, stomp, stomping noise, and the night creatures shivered in their burrows, and a hollowed voice howled, "Hairy toe! Hairy toe! I want my hairy toe!" Inside the cottage, the little old woman sat bolt right up in bed, and she shuddered with fear from the angry howling out in the garden. She jumped out of bed, and she ran downstairs, and she bolted the front door of the cottage. And when the cottage was secure, she ran back upstairs and got in bed and pulled the covers up over her head and tried to go back to sleep. Suddenly, the door of the cottage burst open with a bang, and the bolt flew to the corner of the room. And the sound of stomp, stomp, stomping, giant feet climbing the stairs. And the little old lady peeked from underneath the covers, and she saw a massive figure standing in the doorway. and it said, Hairy Toe, Hairy Toe, I want my hairy toe. And the little old lady shook in bed, and she sat up and she shouted, I ate your hairy toe! And the giant figure said very gently, yes, you did, as it advanced into the room. No one in the region ever saw the little old woman again. And the only clue to her disappearance was a giant footprint pressed into the dirt outside of the cottage. And that giant footprint was missing the big toe. Thank you for listening, and happy Halloween.